Vasudevendra Yogindram Natva Jnana Pradam Gurum Mumukshunam Hitarthaya Tattvabodho Bhidiyate. Okay, so this will be used in the class today to give us a visual representation of what we have spoken of so far. So far, we are going through the 3 sets, and they are for the purposes of showing us or adding specificity of the realities that we are confronted with. And we have spoken of the first reality, which are the 3 bodies: the causal body, the subtle body, and the physical body. This was the first set, and this leads us to the second set, which is the 3 states of experience. So avastha trayam is the 3 states. So what are the 3 states? And then it says jagrat, swapna, shushupti, avasthaha. So jagrat, what are the 3 states? The waking, the dream, and the sleep state. So we can appreciate how the rishis take every facet of reality, and they don't take it for granted, but rather use it as a means of inquiry to arrive to the reality, to make some sense of all of this. So let's see what the rishis have said about the waking state. The next verse. So jagrat avastaka shrotradi jnana indriyaihi shabdadi vishayaischa jnayate iti. Sa jagradavastha stula sharira bhimani atma vishwa iti uchyate. What is the waking state? Right now is the waking state. And what is right now? Right now, what's involved are your physical sense organs, and they are required to be open and working to make sense of the waking state. In fact, because your physical organs are working, eyes, ears are working, is the very reason why we are able to call this the physical state. Yes, it is also true that you can close your eyes, close your ears, close the nose, close the tongue and so on. That's called being sick and not tasting anything. And still, you say, well, all of my senses are closed, and yet still it's the waking state. The point is sight, that which is behind the eyes is still working. That which is behind the ears, the capacity to hear is still working. Whether you close your physical ears or have them open, that is a different matter. But what's working specifically are not only the physical senses, but also the subtle sense organs, which are part of your subtle body. So over here, we can see that these, what are they? We can see that the ear, capacity to hear, to touch, to see, to taste, and to smell, these are all working because they're all part of the what is this? Okay, we'll need to put this up there. There's a context for this, but these are all also subtle. So this should also be in the subtle body, because this is referring to the physical ears, to the physical skin. But we're not talking about the physical. We're talking about the subtle capacities that enable these to work, that enable the physical to work. So these subtle capacities working through the physical organs is what enables the waking state. Okay, so for example, to give you some contrast, in dream, right? Even though you still have the physical ears and the physical skin and the physical eyes, it's still there. In fact, some people even sleep with their eyes open, suppose, right? I don't know if that's possible, but suppose. So their eyes are open, However, they're completely oblivious to the physical world, to this world. Why is that? Because that which is behind the ears, behind the eyes, is not connected to the physical. Therefore, because of this disconnection, there's no waking state. So the subtle body has to be connected to the physical body, and only then you have the waking state. When the subtle is disconnected from the physical, we call that dream. That's the only difference. Understand? In the waking, the subtle body is fully connected with the sense, the physical organs. In the dream, that connection is not simply there. And therefore, then the physical world, despite it being here, your physical body being here, there is no sense of physical body. There is no sense of the physical world. There is no sense of the sounds that are going on around you, even though they're there, but there's no indweller in the physical body to pick up those sounds. All right, and then it says that in the waking, you, right, the I sense, the individual, the jiva, what are they called in the waking state? They're called Vishwa. So you say, what is this Vishwa, right? Vishwa means the one that is complete. Now, why would you call a person in the waking state one that is complete? Because to be complete, are you complete, without answering this directly, are you complete without the gross body? Can you say you're complete without the gross body? No. To be complete, you need the causal body, you need the subtle body, and you need the gross body. Without the physical body, you can't say you're complete. Why not? Because certain rights are restricted from you. One of those rights is a doer. That's why in the dream, you cannot do your dream. You can't say, you know what, I don't like this dream. I'm just going to change the sky. I want pigs in the sky. I want rainbow and unicorns in the fields. I'm kind of bored of this. You can't do that because the doer is stripped away in the dream. In the dream, you only have an enjoyer. That's why in the dream, one either has a lovely experience or they go through a nightmare. If you had a doer in the dream, nobody would have a nightmare, number one. And second, if you had a doer in the dream, that would be the number one experience to be looking forward to every day. You'll be saying, you know, I can hardly wait to dream because tonight I'm going to just create my own world. And I'm going to populate it with girls. It's going to be the best thing ever, right? And so if that was the case, then, then we would all be sort of looking forward to dream. But we don't think like this. Why? Because the doer, your freedom to will, is stripped away when your physical body is not there. Okay, so you need the physical body to have a certain capacity of free will. Okay, so Vishwa, that is the waker, means the one that is complete. What does it mean to be complete? It means you have doership and you have enjoyership. That is what makes you, as an individual, complete. If you just have enjoyership, that is as good as heaven. Heaven and dream, they are actually quite similar. In heaven, you only enjoy yourself. In dream, you only, when I say enjoy, it also means suffer. But in heaven, obviously, it's going to be enjoyment. But in the dream, it's also enjoyment, more or less. Therefore, to be complete, you need one more capacity, those power to do, power to desire, and power to know. Okay, these three powers, remember those? Icha Shakti, Jnana Shakti, and Kriya Shakti. Power to do, power to desire, and power to know. You need these three powers only are there more or less when you have a physical body. Okay, you take the physical body away, then what can you know? Yes, you still have the ability to know by your dream, but how much do you have capacity to do in your dream? You do have the capacity to desire in your dream, but how much capacity do you have to do in your dream? So you take away this capacity to do, and then what's with the desire and what is with the knowledge? Well, it's just a passing. It's just whatever you know is whatever you know. You can know about monsters, you can know about all sorts of things, but there's no real value in just knowing. There has to be a selector. What is it that I want to know? What is it that I want to move from my experience and add into my experience? Only then it becomes a learning opportunity. And that is why the waking state is the most useful, because you have this power to do, this Kriya Shakti, therefore you can learn and grow. What about dream? Can you learn and grow in a dream? Maybe. We can, as far as we can process data, maybe. We can process some psychological pressures in a dream. We can work out some unresolved issues in our dream. However, learning or not, I don't know. I don't know if you've ever had a class in a dream. Did you ever have a learning class? A dream teacher said, hey, please sit down. I have something to teach you. And you were paying attention, and the environment was completely solid. It did not keep on changing. And, you had a rational conversation with your teacher there before he turned into Hanuman or Krishna or a rabbit or a Bugs Bunny, right? So you need a physical waking place, this place now, to have some constructive learning experience. So this is the glory of the waking state. The waking state is whereby you as a person have access to the causal body, you have access to the subtle body, and you have access to the physical body. That is what makes you complete. Whereas in the dream, do you have access to the physical body? No, you only have access to the causal body. Now, what is causal body? We said those impressions. That's why we call them samskaras. We have impressions from whatever, right? This life could be past life. Those impressions populate your dream, and therefore your dream ends up being nothing but an expression of unconscious impressions. Whether they're conscious or unconscious, it doesn't matter. They just fully express themselves in the dream. Whereas when you add a physical body, then there is some stability to these impressions. They don't just fly all over the place. Did you notice that in your experience? How in the dream, things just fly, they're all over, there's no stability? Yeah, because they stop here. The impressions stop here. And this subtle body is very fluid in nature. It's like water. You cannot contain it. You put water in your hand, it just spills right over. So the dream is kind of like that. So you need something solid, whereby the impression is not just going to sort of show up and then just pour through, whatever container and then just disappear. You need it to host itself in some physical, gross, densified matter that is going to pull it down. There's going to be some gravity to pull it down and hold it in one place so that the samskara can be worked with, so that it doesn't fly away before I can look at it and help myself to look, to grow from what it has to show me, right? What it has to show me. Okay. So this is the waking state. All right. Now let's see. So stula sharira abhimani atma. Okay. So this is atma identified with all three, assumes the waker. Okay. So there it is. So atma, you, right? You, atma, identified with all three, causal body, subtle body, and the gross body, becomes who? Becomes the waker. So right now you have identification with your past impressions, with this, the intellect, right? You're making decisions now. What is important here? What does this mean for me? You're thinking, right? And there's the mind. You have a certain feeling and emotion. Maybe there's some doubting going on. This is all product of the mind. And also the ahankara, the I sense, is what owns the experience. And it says, this is my experience. I am thinking this. and I am working things out, right? So you have a sense of individuality. So that is there. And also, of course, right, there is, maybe there's some digestion going on right now. You say, oh, my stomach is a little bit sore, or, circulation, or maybe you can feel energized if you had whatever tea or coffee. And then you say, well, I need to go to the bathroom or something, right? So this is all included in what we call a Vishwa, the one that is complete. And so this one that's complete is what we kind of associate with, right? Where we put our I. So the entire thing, look at this, the entire thing, everything that's going on right now, your personality, how you are, what you're thinking, what you believe in, what your opinions are, what your experiences of this class right now, that is all dictated by samskaras, right? Your impressions, your likes and dislikes. And then you have an opinion about this experience. Why? Because the mechanism of the intellect is working, mechanism of the mind is working, the mechanism of the ahamkara, of course, owns the whole experience. And then certainly there is aches and pains of the body. There is sometimes your body feels lighter, sometimes heavier. All of this gets added and centralized into one central point called the ahamkara, I. And therefore we say, this is me. This is my experience right now. But what's behind that statement? Causal body, subtle body, physical body. Whereas in the dream, when you say that same I, same thing, causal body, subtle body, but it excludes the physical body. Earlier on, we said, Atma kaha, who are you? Who is this I? And we said, Stula Sukshma Karana Sharira Vyatiriktaha. So I am not the three bodies. I'm not causal, this or the physical. We said Pancha Kosha Titaha. So I'm not the 5 layers, which we will discuss after the 3 states. And then we said Avastha Traya Sakshi. So in other words, I'm the witness of the 3 states. I, Atma, am the witness of, in this case, the waker. And what is inside the waker? All of the conditions of the causal body, all of the, the faculties and the mechanics of the subtle body, and all of the sensations of the physical body. So now, suppose we have one person we'll call this Banu, okay? So hello, Banu from Canada, okay. And this whole circle right now is called Banu, just to kind of identify it differently from another equal circle, right? Equal circle called, we'll say, Charles, right? So we have Banu circle and we have Charles circle. Both of these circles, right, make up I. So we have one and we have another circle here. Now they're going to have different experiences, right? Why? Because of the samskaras, because of what you've done before. So obviously that's going to make a different personality. But what is one common factor, right? Brahman, right? The one aware. So what? Banu is aware, but aware of what? What's Banu aware of? All of the things attached onto I sense. What is, who else did I say? Charles. Charles, what's Charles aware of? All of the things that are attached onto the Charles I sense. Okay, you see that? So what's the one commonality? Awareness is equal in all. So now the question is, if one Atma, if one consciousness is all that is, if consciousness is all that is and is the reality, then why does it feel like my experience is contained to just myself? Why do I not feel everywhere, right? Why am I not everywhere? This is a common objection. If I am awareness, then I'm supposed to be everywhere right now. I'm supposed to feel all pervasive, all, maybe not omnipotent, but all pervasive, at least that much they say. The reason is because right now, what's happening? Even though you, awareness, are shining in Andre's mind, shining in everyone's mind, because you are assigned one single, three bodies, one unit, it seems as if you are contained. Therefore, consciousness is obtaining in the subtle body, and the subtle body is obtaining in the physical body. And therefore, you say what? There's pockets of consciousness. My consciousness is different from your consciousness. This is another common objection. You understand this? My consciousness is different from your. I have a better consciousness than you have. My consciousness is larger or smaller than your consciousness. What is the larger or smaller referring to? All of the things attached onto the ahamkara. Understand? So the person then mistakes the I sense for consciousness. Therefore, why do we experience pockets of consciousness? Because the I is placed or identified with this entire unit. Even though it feels like that, in reality, that is not so. Okay? So therefore, the waking state has been addressed. So swapna vastha keti chet jagradavasthayam yad drishtam yad shrutam tad janita vasanaya nidra samaye yaha prapanchaha pratiyate sa swapnavastha sukshma sharira abhimani atma taijasa itti uchyate. What is the dream state? It is a place where all of the impressions that you have collected in the waking state, where are they going to come out mostly? When you are undisturbed in the dream. So whatever is unresolved or was too much to take in the waking state, for whatever reason, or it just didn't have time to get processed, then the one place where it will, right, come out in full force is in your dream state. And so your whole dream gets sculpted according to your, in this case, it says vasana. Vasana means impressions, and those impressions obviously mean memories, right? So this technically means you only begin dreaming, they say about 6 months, babies begin dreaming about 6 months after birth. So you actually need a memory in the waking state to start dreaming. You can't dream nothing. Now, maybe it's possible in reference to past impressions, I don't know, but more or less, you need some memories, because if you look at your dream, isn't it true that your dream is always filled up by events relative to you? Right? You say, well, I didn't see Hanuman. I didn't see a man with a monkey's tail, right? Well, yes, you did. You saw a monkey and you saw a man. And so a monkey could mean to you a foolish person. And so symbolically, you attach a tail onto a man in the dream, and that represents them to be foolish, or it's kind of a way to cope with the hurt they have caused you. So you make them into a monkey or whatever, right? So basically, we take different parts of our waking state and we become a Brahmaji, and therefore you become your own creator. You become a god in your own right in the dream world. So in that same manner, just like in the waking state, right now, whose world is this? Is someone dreaming this world up? No, there is no dream. You can only use dream in reference to me dreaming this world, me dreaming my own world. You cannot say God is dreaming this world. And I'm saying this because often this is heard in the spiritual world. Ishvara is having a dream. And sometimes they will even say Brahman is having a dream. No, the dream is specifically only in reference to the individual having a dream. In that case, you can say, right, the dream world has been created. But don't say Ishvara is dreaming this dream. So this is a overlap. This is when we take one example and we try to overlap it onto everything else. That's an error. When the I sense is identified with the subtle body and the causal body, right? Not the physical body. That's called what? A taijasa. Taijasa just means, number one, the one who is identified with the physical, with the subtle body and the causal body. That's the first definition. The second definition of taijasa is bright, right? So if you look at your dream, it's generally sharp. There's a sharpness around it. There's a kind of a definition about it. It's bright. It's not pulled down by the physical body. So the dream can be very bright and active and dynamic and explosive and just generally, that taijasa, that bright mode to it, very sharp and in high definition. You say, what's the point of knowing this? So the answer is, where do we commit most of our mistakes? In reference to which state? To the waking. The whole world is talking about nothing but waking state. 1/3, never mind the 3 states. It's like, hey, this state is good enough. So I take one state, the waking, and make my whole life about the waking state. Of course, some of us make a big deal about the dream, and so then we go online and look for dream diaries, and what are these symbolic meanings? So again, you put your eye in the dream, right? But most of us put our eye in the waking state. If you were the waker, that means that waker could not be gotten rid of in the dream. In the waker, we say, I am a mom, I'm an employee, I am a CEO. In the dream, what do we say? I'm a beggar. I am, being shot. I am dead, right? Or whatever. So the whole identity from the waker has fallen off. So what does this show you? That from the waking standpoint, I was convinced this is who I am. I am a teacher. I am a spiritual teacher. In the dream, I am a nobody. So what does this mean? Whatever I said in reference to the waker only applied to the waking state. It did not apply to me. Because if I was that person who I claim to be in the waking, then that could have not been gotten rid of in the dream state. Therefore, the dream state, what is the purpose of the teaching? To show you, you cannot be whatever you claim in the waker. You cannot be that. Therefore, we have a different attitude in reference to what we claim to be while in the waking. Yeah, and then one word is nidra samaye. Did you ever have an experience of going to bed for a nap and you begin to dream? Maybe you put a timer on for 10 minutes and then it feels like instantly you begin to dream. You had that experience? Right, you just go for a nap, rest for 10 or 15 minutes, put a timer on, and then immediately lay down, and then a dream comes. Well, you say, well, what the text says is before you enter into a dream, you have to first die to the waker. Because if you didn't first die to the waker, then you would have the waking state overlaid over the dream. And there will be a confusion between the two. So for the dream to be completely dreamlike, unaffected by any other superimpositions or competing images, right, the Vishwa, remember, is the waker. The Vishwa has to completely die. Only then you have two doors open. The first door is you can take on the role of a dreamer, or you take on the role of a deep sleeper. Either way, before these two doors are entered, you die to the waker. When? Every single day we die to this person who we claim to be. Okay? So nidra samaye.
Yeah, in video editing, you introduce when you transition from a scene to another scene, there's a duration of a delay. That's what I would like to compare, sliding into dream from a waking state.
That blank, that little blank twin frame that has no
the
connection.
transition, yes.
Right,
Yeah,
that has no
you,
connection to either, right?
and there is a duration involved.
Yeah, I mean, that's a metaphor. And this is useful when you kind of create your own metaphors. It gets you to think like this. So this is a useful practice. Yeah, analogies or metaphors. And it also exercises your creativity. I just want to mention one word is, see the word vasana. So one of the few places where I do see this word vasana, which is often sometimes equated to samskara, it's in this verse, this dream state. So tat anita vasanaya. So your dream state is a product of the impressions of the vasanas, of the samskaras that are a product of your waking state. So how is this filled up? Through the waking state. You cannot fill the samskaras in your dream. The dream does not add more karmas or more samskaras in your causal body. It is the waking state that fills up the causal body with, as we said, punya papam.
I was just thinking about rapid eye movement. That's interesting because in the dream state, they say that's when you have rapid eye movement. So it's reactive. Your body, even though it's not moving, it's still reactive to that state. Like even dogs, you can see when their feet are moving, like eyes are sort of flickering, but they're running. You can tell they're running in their dream. So it's even with animals and like humans can even punch or kick out or something crazy like that. So
yeah, that's true.
That connection with the physical body, but there's a cutoff point where you're not actually going to get up and start running.
That would be interesting, right? Yeah. Imagine that.
Some people get punched in their sleep because the person next to them is
right.
reactive.
They get a red eye every day, right? Every night. See, one way to explain this is the connecting factor between the dreamer, the subtle body, and the physical body is your prana. This thing here, prana. So prana is that which connects your subtle body and the physical body. So that's why even though you don't have awareness, the dreamer does not have awareness of their physical body. But then, as you said, Lorena, why is it the physical body still can, unleash or punch or anything? Because the prana is still activated, and that prana is has a connection, is that which connects the body, physical body, and the subtle body. Atha shushuptyavastaka aham kimapi na janami sukhena maya nidra anubhuyata iti shushuptyavastha karana sharira bhimani atma pradnya iti uchyate. So in deep sleep, your experience is, I don't know anything. I don't know that I don't know, and I don't even know that I don't know, right? So I don't know that I don't know, and I can't even say that statement that I don't know. And now the most important teaching for the deep sleep is deep sleep shows you, just like the dream shows you, that you are not the waker, because if you were the waker, you could not rid yourself of that identity. In that same way, if we stop at the dream, then we say, well, I'm the dreamer. Well, deep sleep shows us that I am neither the waker nor the dreamer. Because if I was the dreamer, then I could not get rid of the dreamer, right? I could not get rid of that personality. In the deep sleep, what is this I sense called? They call him pradnya. Pradnya actually means wise. So why would a deep sleeper be called wise in the deep sleep? There's no identification with any kind of identity in deep sleep, which is the very attribute or quality of a wise person. So despite the identity being there, the wise person understands, despite its presence, I'm not bound by this identity. However, in deep sleep, we have the exact same experience because you have no sense of limitation. The king and the beggar are equal in deep sleep. There's no higher or lower in deep sleep. However, they're both wise, but unfortunately, they don't know it because I don't know what I don't know. The second definition is you are entirely identified with the causal body, with the unmanifest. And this is why I said that term last week or 2 weeks ago called the undifferentiated soup. So you are identified with the unmanifest, those things that are yet to come, however, they have not come yet. And what is that place like? It's just utterly nothing, right? It's not even nothing. It's just the closest word is just nothing. So that place of deep sleep, what is that place of deep sleep? That is what we call unmanifest. So even when we have cycles of creation, when the entire universe resolves, that place of resolution where every jiva, right, every living being has resoluted, that place is exactly the same as when you go to sleep. So when you go to sleep, that resolution of unmanifest, identity with the unmanifest, where it is yet to come, it is yet to manifest, it's exactly the same what it feels like. If it, you can't even say it's a feeling, right? It's exactly the same quote experience as when the whole universe has resolved into nothing, basically.
Can we say time and space dissolve into cause?
Yeah, so from the standpoint of the causal body, see, causal body is, you cannot attribute the causal body to time and space. Time and space only arises when the causal body manifests something out of itself. It manifests a samskara, right? When those pressures that wake you up in the morning, what wakes you up out of deep sleep? Did you ever ask that? Why do you wake up out of deep sleep? Because the pressures of your karmas, right? The force of those pressures comes forward, and for those karmas, those unfulfilled, unresolved desires, for them to manifest outwards, then they create a subtle body and a, not that they create, it's already supplied, but they need a subtle body and a physical body to start to play out. In fact, the only difference between physical death for an ignorant person and waking up in the morning, when you wake up in the morning, it is exactly like waking up in a new physical body. The only difference is you wake up in a body that you had yesterday, but for physical death, you wake up in a different body. On top of that, of course, you have amnesia, right? I don't remember what happened last life. That's the only difference. Otherwise, the principle is the same. What causes a new rebirth are the pressures of your karmas, right? A brand new body, the pressures of those karmas. Those pressures are the exact same pressures that puts you into this body every single morning. Therefore, as long as my eye is placed in these samskaras, then what's going to happen? Whoever that I is also going to receive a new subtle and physical body.
I think about this sort of stuff all the time. And I was thinking, especially when you've lost someone, say, for example, my father.
Yeah.
I often wonder, is he born again in another baby's body somewhere or something like that?
Yeah,
it's really a strange feeling. And then you think, well, time also is distorted in that it's not like how we see time in this physical form. It may be delayed, or it could be, you just don't know when that will manifest.
See, when, just like in your dream, your sense of time changes. It's very different from the physical time. So when the jiva has a physical death, for them, 1 minute could be for us in the physical world 100 years. So it doesn't mean they're going to get reborn in the next, right, immediately right after. That could be reborn 500 years from now or 1,000 years from now. For them, it was a mere 5 minutes. They were just having a break on the beach for 5 minutes, but here it's 1,000 years. So we cannot quite trace, because often we say, oh, you see, my grandfather died and I just had a kid with my wife, and that's my grandfather right there. So that's my previous grandfather. So we sort of project now, right? And then we create our own narrative, but that's not how it works, because as you said, the time is very different for that one who has died and for us here on earth. Yeah.
Because time is relative, which has been proven.
It's relative entirely, yeah. And the jiva, I mean, I don't know what the death process is like, but because there's no kind of, you cannot quantify it, or kind of give an accurate description. The point is, you know, they also say there's one more belief that in India, and I would doubt this, by the way, that a husband and a wife, they have 7 marriages. Does anyone hear this? They meet for 7 times. See, the reality is the husband and wife, right? They are 2 different jivas, right? They have a entirely different causal body, and the causal body manifests according to, you know, its composition. So one gets born in one family, one gets born in another family, but then to kind of create another story and say, well, even though the causal body is entirely different between between husband and wife, they come together. There's no way you can prove that. So sometimes we have to make a difference between, right, what's romantic and what sounds romantic, and just stick with the facts that we have. One jiva can get born 100 years from now, and so what? Does the husband now going to wait for his dead wife to get reborn at the same time as him? You know, so it starts a whole complication, right? There's no question of waiting for anyone. It's just the pressure of karma causes a rebirth. I'm not going to wait for my wife to get born at the same time as her in the same country. So this is a story that gets added onto this model. Yes, Paul.
I guess well, once you sleep or when you die, the undifferentiated soup contains something, a possibility or permutation and combination that decides what happens next, probably.
Yeah, I mean, this is what we say exactly. Your causal body. When Bao said undifferentiated soup, he likes this word. Which was a poetical word. You know, sometimes we say this is a bank account of your punya papam. This is the undifferentiated soup of what is yet to come. So these are poetical words. So that decides, based on what you have done previously, what kind of an experience you will have in the new body. Just like what determines every new morning is what? What you have done yesterday. Right? It's simple as that. So this birth into a new body is just like waking up from yesterday. And what's there is completely in line with whatever has been done before. It's simple as that. So it's not like this random system where one life you're a fish, and next life you're an elephant, and next life you're a worm, and then a sage. There's a predictability. There's an order there, right? What Krishna says lovely to Arjuna, you know, if you go into this knowledge, it's not like, oh, if I die and I don't attain liberation, then I'll get born into a little cockroach. Well, that's not how it works. Because a cockroach is fire. Yeah.
A year for a cockroach, Andre, might be like 100 years for us humans.
That's true.
The time is so distorted for depending on the creature too. It might, like a butterfly's life, for example, we see that as only a few days or whatever it is.
Yeah, and for them, it's
like 100 years.
Yeah, and what is it? A fly lives, what I heard, 7 days, and now a fly looks at us and considers 100 years and goes, "My God, I cannot imagine how long that is." So for us too, a Greenland shark lives 500 years, 400 to 500 years on average. The longest living animal, a Greenland shark. You can look it up. And for us, it's like, wow, it's a long time. But that's how the order assigns specific times to different jivas. And there's a reason for that. We cannot explain it, but it's there. And we can observe that in flies, in animals, in us. And the question is, what gives you a certain lifespan over someone else? Why do you live? We have a woman who smokes. I've seen this. She smokes like 3 cigarettes a day, and she's 105. And she gets interviewed. And it's like, what's your secret? I have a smoke a day. And you're like, oh, really? So this is false attribution, by the way. This is a bias where they attribute their activities onto their lifespan. But it's not like that. There's a what we call karma that's behind pushing you, making you alive, causing your heart to beat until you exhaust this karma, and then the body goes. This is the Vedic model. The scientific model, the biological model, is, of course, they say, well, you're dead because you had cancer, because you choked on food, because you fell from a mountain, because the airplane has crashed, right? And they say, well, that's true, but there's also more behind all of that. And we cannot know. We cannot exactly pinpoint what it is. You can't say now, what about those people in an airplane and there's 300 of them and the airplane crashed? Does this mean they were all meant to be in that airplane and their prarabdha karma has all come to an end at the same time? There's just no way to tell. It could be for some of them, for the rest of them, it's not. It just happened to be a bad case of not going through the checklist and the engine went wrong, or something went wrong with the airplane, or something went wrong with the pilots made an error, and that contributed. And so then we create a story and then we say, you see, they were all meant to die together. It's fine. You now feel better about it. So it's a coping mechanism to explain away what is uncomfortable. The point is, there's no way to tell completely what factors have contributed to one's death. But generally, the Vedas does say, your karma is come to an end. Now it's time to go. Now it's time to get a new body. Now, when it comes to many people dying at once, then issues get a lot more complex. The Vedas doesn't talk about that. So it's, that's open for speculation, but there's no way to prove it. Sukhena maya nidra anubhuyate. So sukhena, it says happiness here. However, it's better to say, so in other words, in sleep by me was experienced sukham, was experienced happiness, but it's better to say I experienced absence of dukkha, I experienced absence of suffering, because your nature is happiness, your nature is fullness. So there's no need to say I experienced fullness, because you are fullness. So it's better to say those obstructing factors denying my happiness, they were removed. And what are those obstructing factors? The subtle body and the physical body. They were removed, and therefore those troublemakers, the two troublemakers being removed, what happened? I experienced absence of suffering. I felt full. And here we are going, I want a body. I want a subtle body. Give me a physical body. And yet everyone is looking forward to deep sleep to get rid of their physical body and their subtle body. So this is an analysis. When it comes to deep sleep, we all look forward to deep sleep. You don't look forward to a dream. Hey, can hardly wait to go to tonight and sleep. When you say sleep, your implication is sleep. It is not a dream. So this means, since this is a common experience for everyone, it implies that whoever was there in deep sleep is here now. Otherwise, you would have never made that statement. So just to say, I'm looking forward for deep sleep implies that yesterday's deep sleep, I was there and I was experiencing fullness. And knowing that fullness, I can now confidently say, I want one more round, please. I'm looking forward to deep sleep. So this implies whoever was there in deep sleep is here now in the waking state saying, I want deep sleep. So you can see the connection. The I that's here in the waking, making that claim, is the same I that is there in the deep sleep, despite not having a subtle body and a physical body, which says what? That you are other than the subtle and the physical body. And furthermore, we also are reluctant to get out of deep sleep. In the morning, the alarm rings and you say, the alarm has rung. Thank you very much. First thing you look for is the button beginning with that S. And you press the S button and get yourself 5 more minutes of that place which does not possess the subtle or the physical body. Let me get rid of my subtle and physical body for 5 more minutes and I'll be happy. This is very interesting. So we are all looking forward for deep sleep. That's why we all make preparations. You want to make sure that your pillows are just right, that the temperature is not going to wake you up, that the windows are open so you don't wake up. So this implies that whoever wants that, that one understands and is there during deep sleep. That's the point of the analysis. And that one also understands that the second proof is that you're there in deep sleep is that I am reluctant to get out of it, which means that is, I want my natural state. You always move closer to what you find natural and farther away to what you find unnatural. Since we all want that place of deep sleep where there's no subtle body and there's no physical body, implies what? The subtle and the physical body are not natural. What is natural? That place without the physical and the subtle body, which means what? I am moving closer to myself. And what is this myself? The self, the one without these two troublemakers. So this is the teaching method that the rishis are using just to help us get our eye in the right place, because we're so attached to the physical body and the subtle that we think that's all life is worth living for. These three we can conclude as upadis. What is an upadi? Upadi, as we discussed, is that which as though lends its attributes onto something else. Suppose this is you, right? Awareness. And this one will be what? The waker, right? So you're the waker now. So this one is a product of causal body, subtle body, and gross body, right? So they're a person with a personality. And so this is an upadi. This is an upadi, that which as though lends its attributes to this, which is upahita, that which as though takes on attributes, but it doesn't really take on, does it? Why does it not take on? Because when the waking state goes, what happens? The bright taijasa comes up. Now, this taijasa is again an upadi, and now it says, oh, look, I, awareness, am this taijasa, this little beggar. And then eventually you have, what happens now? You have the great state of blackness, right? Nothingness. Another upadi called deep sleep, and you say, oh, I am just ignorant, right? But the point is, all of these three are just upadis, and in the presence of awareness, I come to know about all three of them. That's the point of the teaching. And in the scriptures, they say Atma is called alupta drik. Alupta drik means the one that never blinks. So Atma is like this. And then the waking state comes up. And then the dream state comes up. Never blinks. And then the deep sleep state comes up. Again, the waking state comes up. The dream state comes up. The waking state comes up. All life like this. Alupta drik never blinks for one moment, able to, I just blinked now, able to identify all three states individually from the moment you were born to the last moment that you will die. Atma alupta drik, the one that never blinks. Okay, so we have the causal, subtle, we explained the gross body, we explained the 5 pranas, which are, the part of the subtle body actually. And then the 5 elements is just the world. It's talking about the world, which are made of the 5 elements. So those 5 elements produce an object, and that object is picked up by the ears, skin, eyes, tongue, nose, right? Through your senses, and it is processed by your subtle body. Also, according to your samskaras, which would dictate what kind of an experience or reaction you have regarding the object. So if you have a little rose show up, right? A little rose shows up, then you say, so what do I want to do with this rose? Do I want to reach over and smell it? Do I want to water it? What do I want to do with this rose? So that which determines what you want to do with the rose, which is part of the physical world, and now it's inside your subtle body, that is called your samskaras. And also Leo asked me, what is a jiva? And as we can see, a jiva is all 3. However, upon physical death, what happens? There's no more gross body. What remains? The subtle body and the causal body. Therefore, this subtle and causal then inherit a new physical body, and that's called rebirth. And over here, we said beginningless jiva. Now, why is it beginningless? Remember how we discussed the logic? you cannot have ignorance begin from knowledge. So there was never a time when you were at once upon a time knowledgeable about who you were, right? Because knowledge means absence of ignorance. And also, ignorance cannot come from nothing, because to be ignorant is always in reference to something, and nothing is something they're opposing in nature. Therefore, and what is born from this ignorance? The jiva. That's why we say the jiva is beginningless, because what is born from ignorance? The jiva. Is the jiva knowledgeable when you're born? Do you know things when you're born? We don't know anything. So from whatever this jiva was born from was from ignorance. And we just used the logic that ignorance is the causal body, right? The causal body means ignorance. And therefore, when that ignorance begin, it cannot begin. It was beginningless. Okay. And this beginningless jiva goes through 3 states: the sleeper, dreamer, waker, sleeper, dreamer, waker. And during the dreamer and the waker, it enjoys, right? It enjoys, the physical body, the subtle body, and the causal body. And that is what we call the subject. So when we say the subject and the object is just the world, right? Object, like this board right now is an object. And you, the witness of this board, is the subject. And so this subject goes through these 3 states of experience and puts their eye into one of these 3 bodies, the physical, the subtle, the causal, or puts their eye in the waker, the dreamer, and the sleeper. And since how long has this been happening? Since a long time. Okay, so this is the interaction between the subject and the object, this subject-object split. Yes.
Andre, when you talk about the undifferentiated soup again, I love that word. Can we say in Vedanta, it's a common expression to say about that state, avyakta? In
respect to causal body, it is avyakta. Avyakta just means unmanifest. But more so, avyakta, Bao, is specifically and mostly used in reference to Maya. So far, we're discussing the individual. So eventually, we're going to soon come to the macrocosm here. So this we have not talked about. We have only talked about this. Purnamada, Purnamidam, Purnat, Purnamudachyate, Purnasya, Purnamadaya, Purnam eva avashishyate. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.